Who's going to knock out Anthony Joshua next? The reason I ask this question is because a lot of you guys, and I'm not saying it's the majority, but it's at least a sizable minority, believe that Anthony Joshua's best days are behind him and that he's on the slide, basically. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I tend to suspect that his best days are actually in front of him, but I could be wrong. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to entertain those of you who believe he is on the slide. AJ has been knocked out before. He's been down multiple times in his career. He's been hurt multiple times in his career. Therefore, it stands to reason that if he's on the slide, and presumably they're going to put him in at least one big fight before he retires, if he's on the slide, then there's a good chance he gets knocked out again. The question is, who's the man to do it? Now, it's not as straightforward as it might seem at first, because what a lot of people are going to do is pick the fighter who they think would have the best chance of knocking AJ out based on styles and ability and all that kind of thing. But that's on the assumption that that guy's actually going to get the opportunity to fight AJ in the first place. They may not because of boxing politics and rankings and all this kind of thing. So the best place to start is to look at the rankings of all four major sanctioning bodies. So AJ is currently ranked number 5 with the WBO, IBF, WBC, and number 4 with the WBA. So he's got a pretty good ranking with all four major sanctioning bodies. However, his next opponent, Jermaine Franklin, is not ranked in the top 15 of any of the major sanctioning bodies. So if AJ is to beat him, or AJ were to beat him rather, you wouldn't imagine it's going to boost AJ's ranking position much, beating a guy who's not even ranked in the top 15. But, you know, the sanctioning bodies have a funny way of operating, so we'll see. But as it stands right now, in the WBO, you've got Usyk the champion, Joyce the interim champion, number 1 contenders Andy Ruiz, then you've got Frank Sanchez, Otto Wallin below him, Philip Pergovic, then AJ. So I would imagine that Ruiz and Sanchez might fight to be the next number 1 or next mandatory after Joe Joyce, who's currently the interim. That's a possibility. Both of those guys are PBC. Andy Ruiz recently clarified that although his deal with Tom Brown, who is the official promoter at PBC, or one of the promoters, although his deal with Tom Brown has come to an end, he's still being advised by Al Heyman. So for all intents and purposes, he's still a PBC guy, as is Frank Sanchez last time I checked. So Ruiz versus Frank Sanchez, I think, is a very realistic fight. So is it AJ really going to fight any of these guys right now? Probably not. You do have Deontay Wilder below him, but I think it really depends on how AJ performs against Jermaine Franklin as to whether he's going to fight Deontay Wilder anytime soon. And I suspect they would try and put him in with Tyson Fury before they put him in with Deontay Wilder, because there's more to gain from fighting Tyson Fury, not only financially, but by way of redemption and championship gold, right? So, yeah, with the WBO in the top, let's say, 7, 8, I don't really see AJ fighting any of those guys anytime soon. Move over to the IBF. Again, Deontay Wilder's there, Andy Ruiz is there. Now, Philip Perkovic is ranked number 1 with the IBF. He is the mandatory. Ruiz and Wilder don't seem keen on fighting Philip Perkovic. Therefore, AJ against Perkovic becomes a possibility, especially when you consider the fact that they're both with DAZN and they're both promoted by Matchroom, right? Eddie Hearn, or at least Perkovic is partly promoted by Matchroom. He's co-promoted. I think Sauerland actually does the bulk of the work promotionally for Philip Perkovic, but either way, he has some association with Matchroom. So that's a fight that could very well be made. Anthony Joshua versus Philip Perkovic. So maybe, and I know a lot of people weren't impressed by Perkovic against Zhilei Zhang, and incidentally, AJ actually beat Zhilei Zhang in the Olympics, and that wasn't a controversial decision, hometown decision, or anything like that. You guys go back and watch that. AJ beat Zhilei Zhang convincingly in the Olympics, but it was a very long time ago. And again, if you guys believe AJ is on the slide, who says he beats Zhilei Zhang now, you know? Anyway, AJ versus Perkovic, I think, is a real possibility. So I personally would put AJ near the top of the list of fighters who could potentially knock out Anthony Joshua next. Below Anthony Joshua in the IBF rankings is Martin Bakole. I guess that's another potential fight for AJ, but right now I wouldn't expect that fight to happen. I don't think Bakole brings anything to the table commercially that would make Team AJ want to take that risk of fighting him right now. That's just the way I perceive things to be. So move over to the WBC rankings. Anthony Joshua is ranked one place above Dillian Whyte. That is a fight that could be made, and the winner gets ranked higher in the WBC. Above them, you've got Makhmudov, Frank Sanchez, and Andy Ruiz. Again, I guess a lot of it would depend on whether Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz are actually going to get this fight on together. Maybe Deontay Wilder goes in a different direction and fights Ngannou or does something else. I don't know. But if Wilder and Ruiz can't get their act together and fight, or let's say Ruiz and Sanchez fight an eliminator for the WBO instead, that could potentially leave an opportunity for Dillian Whyte to fight AJ in some type of eliminator for the WBC, with a winner getting a crack at Tyson Fury. Now, there is the issue of Arslanbek Makhmudov. Maybe, one of them would actually have to fight him instead of fighting each other. But with the WBC, they moved, not just the WBC, all the sanctioning bodies, they moved the rankings around very conveniently. I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, AJ against Dillian Whyte. Would Whyte be one of the people most likely to knock Anthony Joshua out? He's definitely got the power, but I would suspect he's more likely to be a knockout victim again in an AJ rematch rather than AJ being the knockout victim. So personally, I wouldn't put Dillian Whyte near the top. I'd put Perkovic above him. And again, people not impressed by Perkovic. Perkovic can punch like most of the heavyweights can. He can take a shot. He's got stamina. He showed that in the Zheli Zhang fight. He can bounce back from adversity. So I wouldn't write the guy off whatsoever. I'm not saying he would definitely be AJ, but I think people don't realize how good Filip Perkovic is at this stage. Maybe I'm wrong about him, about my assessment, but that's the way I see things right now. Now, there's a guy ranked way down at number 15 at the moment who I don't expect, based upon his ranking currently, him to get a shot fighting AJ. And I say a shot because AJ's still a cash cow, right? Not that AJ has any belts. But I don't expect him to get an opportunity to fight AJ anytime soon. But if he did, I may well have to pick Jalilov to win by knockout. In fact, I might have to pick Jalilov to win by knockout against many of the heavyweights in the top 15 of all sanctioning bodies right now. Jalilov has got a left hand which might turn out to be the best single punch in the heavyweight division behind Deontay Wilder's right hand. Jalilov's southpaw left is absolutely devastating. It is a tremendous punch. So watch out for Bakatir Jalilov's southpaw left hand. He's probably not going to get the opportunity to fight any of the top guys anytime soon. So I'll say it's probably not going to be him if AJ does get knocked out again. Then we move to the WBA rankings. AJ's at number 4. Above him are just Deontay Wilder and Martin Bakole. Now, Martin Bakole is apparently really pushing for this shot against Daniel Dubois. Will he get it? It remains to be seen. Bakole just signed with Sky, so he does have some clout behind him now when it comes to lobbying the WBA. Obviously, Daniel Dubois is with Frank Warren. We'll see how that goes there. You'd have to imagine that Frank Warren doesn't want Dubois to have to face Martin Bakole. That he really wants Dubois to just go in there against Usyk or whoever holds the WBA belt later on this year. That's what Frank Warren will want. I would imagine he's going to try and stave off any attempts by Team Bakole to force Daniel Dubois into a fight. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to go on there. But of course, again, here's AJ at number 4 with Deontay Wilder above him. I don't expect Team AJ to entertain a Deontay Wilder fight without at least getting one win under his belt, and I think an impressive win. If he goes in there against Jermaine Franklin and struggles, I'd be very surprised if he put him in with Wilder next. I think if they're going to cash him out, if they're going to throw him in there in a big fight, a dangerous fight, when he hasn't looked good in his tune-up, it'll be against Tyson Fury. It may even be a trilogy with Alexander Usyk. I wouldn't want to see that, by the way. Usyk has proven beyond any shadow of a doubt who the better fighter of the two is. So I want to see that, but I wouldn't want to see that, should I say. But yeah, you never know. Boxing is a funny old game. So yeah, you look at the rankings, And the people I think AJ is most likely to fight would be Tyson Fury, Philip Pergovic, and Dylan White. And out of those three, most people I'm going to assume would pick Fury as the most likely to knock AJ out. I would probably go with Perkovic, you know. Again, that's probably going to be an unpopular thing, but if any of those guys has got the best chance of knocking out AJ, I would probably go with Perkovic. And followed by Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury's got a shot at knocking AJ out for sure. But Perkovic first, then Fury, and then Dylan White after that. And if AJ actually did get in the ring with a Deontay Wilder, I'd give Wilder a better chance of knocking AJ out than anybody. But I just don't see that fight happening anytime soon. The way the current heavyweight landscape is. I suspect he'd fight one of the other three guys I've mentioned before he steps in there against a Deontay Wilder. But things can change very quickly depending on results, depending on how people look, depending on who has the belts, etc. Maybe an opportunity comes up for a vacant belt and AJ and Wilder get to fight for it. Do you know what I mean? Then maybe it would happen. But as it stands right now, that's how I see it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that, as I do, Philip Pergovic would be the most likely, of the guys most likely to fight AJ, would Pergovic have the best chance of knocking him out? Or do you think it would be Fury? Or do you think it would be White? Or perhaps you think that AJ is more likely to fight someone else who I haven't mentioned. Maybe a trilogy with Andy Ruiz. Maybe he fights a Frank Sanchez. Maybe he fights, I don't know, Perro, the Cuban heavyweight. Maybe he fights Makhmudov to try and get up there in the WBC rankings and get a mandatory shot at Tyson Fury. And whoever you think has the best chance of knocking AJ out, explain why. Is it a stylistic thing? Is it a mental thing? Is it more based on the fighter's power? Is it based on their technical ability? Is it a combination of things? Do you think AJ is going to struggle more against big, tall heavyweights or shorter heavyweights? Does a guy over 6'5" have a better chance of knocking him out or a guy under 6'5"? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.